Yes, how's everybody doing tonight? I'm on. We just decided to bring in Honor Judge Joe Brown, so let me bring him on. Hey, how you doing, bro?
The old man is here.
You all right?
What's up,
Yeah,
youngster?
I'm doing all right, sir. Just watching as the world turns, as they say. There's a lot of stuff going on. We got the Roe versus Wade thing. We got the Second Amendment issues. We got this everywhere you turn, but nobody's sitting there saying the real words. But me and Judge Joe Brown figured it out. This is outright fascism they running. They're trying to run a con game on.
Well, yeah.
They
Like
run a
some
good
people
con
like
game.
it.
I
They
don't
don't
like it.
have goose stepping, jackboot wearing, those high polished boots that go up to the knees, Zeke Eiling, political thugs. They've got long haired, pink panty wearing beatniks, hippies, LGBTQ cultists that want to do the Zeke, Zeke Rainbow, Zeke Rainbow.
But
You
today
know,
is the end of Pride Month, as they would say.
well, they certainly had a good one. They gave them 2 more days than they had for Black History Month, and then they've got a celebration of Black Pride, Gay Pride in February that they've had for some years, and in June they're starting to co-opt Daddy's Day, Father's Day, and I saw some crap trying to put Father's Day with rainbow colors on that. Like, what the hell? These dudes don't even breathe. How you gonna do that? And then you have this thing, Juneteenth. You and I remember when we started running into this Power Fist Juneteenth being rainbow striped.
Mm-hmm.
They're co-opting everything. They're giving it to them. They're trying to let them run this propaganda thing because I think too many of these elected officials are closet rainbow.
Well,
Man, you got to
I,
watch them carefully, man. They're in the closet, man, but they won't come out out the front door, man. They would go out the back door of the closet, man. We got a closet, got a back door, man. I guess theirs do, but they like to be all this and that, man. They get sweet, all sugary. You see a trail of sugar crumbs all over the place when they come through. Now, I'm not getting on gay folk. They can get their freak on in their bedrooms all the hell they want. I'm talking about when you start making a cult of it, trying to make it the official religion of the country and going from there. It is what it is.
well,
That's
don't you?
political, and you can push them back, and it's a cult.
Well, don't you think that with all the stuff they're trying to pull off right now, don't you think it's a little odd that the people around you don't understand what they're doing? Don't you think it's a little odd that
No, we have such an ignorant, stupid bunch of folk running around now. They pay attention to NBA, NFL, MLB, Housewives, Pose, Empire, and all that bullshit, but they don't pay attention to what happens. They walk up to a poll, and we have an election cycle coming up right now, and somebody hands them a sample ballot with somebody's name on it, oftentimes not even a picture. And the fools go in like lemmings or sheep and vote the sample ballot. We had one clown here in Memphis, Tennessee. His name was Joe McCarty, the late judge of Division 8 criminal courts for the state of Tennessee. And every year, every time rather, he ran for election, he got the black bloc vote. Now, what's wrong with that picture? Even though the black congressman, Harold Ford Sr., put him on the ballots, even though Harold Ford Jr. put him on the ballots, even though every other black politician put him on the ballot, even though the preachers endorsed him from the pulpit, this racist, crazy person had been Grand Dragon for the KKK. And after that, chairman of the White Citizens Council. So something was wrong with him. He was some orphan and he hated the world. His replacement, Chris Kraft, is on the ballot right now, I think, here in Memphis. But if he is, anybody that's voting, don't vote for him. If you have to, write your neighbor's dog in if you don't have one. And I know him because he used to be the prosecutor in my courtroom for a long time. And I even endorsed him at one time until I found out what he was truly about. I said, oh, man, this dude is crazy.
But let me ask you a good question. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. So the big news last week was last Friday when the Supreme Court struck down Roe versus Wade. But however, the media is running like a con game, and let's bring some legality to it because...
Well, they didn't make abortion illegal. They just said it is no longer recognized as a constitutional right of privacy.
Yes.
That was disturbing because a lot of the law on search and seizure has to do with you have a right to privacy where you have a realistic expectation of privacy. And if you do, then they have to get a search warrant or a wiretap warrant. They just can't come in and do it. So where it's going, I don't know. Clarence Thomas was talking about that might impact gay marriage. And frankly, I always thought that was a bad thing because of its ramifications. I don't see anything that gay couples, lesbian couples can't get through a relationship contract, which would be simpler. They just sign it, notarize it, and file it. There you go. Each party keep a copy. But they wanted to go deal with the human breeding plan, child rearing plan, organizational foundation. Political science, for example, holds that the family, holds that a tribe, a clan, a city-state, a state, nation-state, they're nothing but extended families. See, there was a valley over here, a valley A, there was one in the middle, B, and then there was one on the other side, C. Populations in valley C and A got bigger. They went over into valley B to hunt and gather crops, and they got to killing each other. So somebody said, okay, we've got a chief with a daughter. You have a chief with a son. Let's marry them so we all become family and kin. That's how it works. So now they've got some fantasy. Oh, we're in love. And see, one of the other things, let's take incest. A father can't marry his daughter. He can't marry, his sister. A mother can't marry her son, nor marry her brother, nor marry her sister. But if you let gay marriages exist, and what you say is, okay, two guys can marry each other. It's impossible for them to get pregnant. Two gals can marry each other. It's impossible for them to get pregnant. So if it's okay for them, then equal protection would dictate that it's okay for straight folks. So that says logically, straight mamas can marry, gay mamas can marry their gay daughters, and gay fathers can marry their gay sons, and one gay brother can marry another gay brother, and one lesbian sister can marry another lesbian sister. So you threw incest out the window. Why? Incest was designed to, as a concept to prevent defective children, which happen all too often when you have inbreeding. Okay, so now you've let gay people marry their siblings and their children and their parents. So what about the sickos that say we're straight, but we want to marry our siblings or our parents? See what you open up? You say, well, if you can let the gay folk do it, you have to let the straight folk do it. So marrying your brother or sister or mom or dad or daughter or son is sick. I know the Egyptians did it, and some fool playing Hotep Negro will start chiming in about it, but it's still sick. So you see what can of worms gets opened up here?
Yeah.
And we've done this to ourselves.
Okay, now let me ask you another question. Let's pivot off of that for a second and go to this Second Amendment issue.
I like that. You got a constitutional right to be armed in public, assuming good citizenship status. And I can see some folk in New York getting thrown in jail for contempt for refusing to go along with the ruling. And good, lock them up.
The Second Amendment says, shall not infringe. So when you're talking about you don't want to have an AR-15 and all that stuff, they need to stop the lie that the AR-15 is a military weapon. It's
not. The AR-15 is not a military weapon. They modified the AR-15 to become a military weapon by making it fully automatic. They put a little rock and roll switch in there, which if you flip it all the way over, it goes to full auto. It's up, horizontal with the lever to the back, that's safe. Down, where it's straight up and down, lever to the bottom, that's semi-auto. Rock it all the way forward if it'll do that, and you have full auto. Now, interestingly enough, the AR does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite. Armalite was a trademark of Fairchild Aviation, and their chief designer was a guy named Eugene Stoner. Now, it's interesting that Eugene Stoner patented his design that is known as the AR, guess when? February 1952. So it's 70 years old. Now, every time you see a John Wayne movie, and it's in the 1950s and 1940s, the interesting thing is that lever action Winchester 92 he liked to use wasn't as old relative to his movies as Stoner's design is to right now. And it's not an assault rifle if it cannot deal with full rock and roll, full machine gun characteristics, where as long as your finger's on the trigger, it's shooting until you run dry. Like a Tommy gun you see in the gangster movies when Elliot Ness's boys were taking on Al Capone's. Yeah, or you see Audie Murphy, or you see Clint Eastwood or John Wayne charging with a Thompson at High Port. That's full auto. This stuff that you buy in the civilian guys is not. The last time, well, the law has changed, and now you cannot buy a fully automatic weapon if it was made after 1986. There are some out there, but you have to go through getting fingerprinted, checked out by the sheriff or police department, getting an okay, forwarding it to DC with a $200 tax. And after anywhere from 6 weeks, which is rare, it's only with people they've been dealing with before, to a year and a half, then there is a clearance that you get a notice of, and you can take it down to the gun store along with the included tax stamp that you have, and you can get the fully automatic weapon. That also includes other class 3 stuff, such as short barreled rifles, short barrel shotguns with a stock. If it doesn't have a stock, it's not technically a shotgun. It's any other non-NFA weapon. It can be a pistol, a semi-auto with a short barrel, if instead of having a butt stock, it's got an arm brace. And the logic behind that is there are a lot of veterans that came back that want to be armed like anybody else, so they don't have the physical strength anymore to shoulder it up. So there's an arm brace they can hold on to after it clamps around the forearm and still be reasonably effective. Now, a lot of people just take those arm braces and use them as short shoulder stocks, but there's nothing illegal about that. And then they have an idiot up in the Boston area who wants to persecute for criminal sanctions when it's not against American law. He just says, I'm not being bound by what alcohol, tobacco, and firearms comes up with. This is what I think. And he says, you can't use this. Well, you wear a size 31 shirt sleeve, a little small pump. I wear a size 35, 36, and it works fine with me with that length. So why are we, you just ought to be a little bitty motherfucker. What's your problem here? Don't rank everybody else out about it. So there's all kinds of stuff. Second Amendment is interesting, and the real purpose of the Second Amendment is to keep big government from getting too damn big and too oppressive. One, if the population is armed as well as the military, then the military will have a hard time imposing a tyranny, dictatorial, fascist, or Nazi-like government. The other thing is because you don't want these governmental entities to become too powerful, what you do is you arm the citizenry so they can protect themselves. Now, this thing about a well-regulated militia being necessary to the common defense, well, in those days, everybody from 15 to 60 was held to be, or 59 was held to be part of the militia if you were able-bodied. You had a duty to defend your neighborhoods, your community. Now, then they were worried about some other parts of my family, Native Americans / American Indians, scalping them. So they didn't have any organized military, and they needed some people to protect them from the so-called savages. Now we've got another kind of savage running amok out there in the neighborhood. So maybe we need to have city managed community militias so the people get involved in making where they live safe on an organized fashion, meet for training, marksmanship, improvement of their knowledge of the law once a month, and then once, twice, 3 times a month going out on patrol in their communities and making sure there's public peace, dignity, and order where they live. So that supplants or supplements the police, and folk can't complain, oh man, she's white supremacist. No, it's black folk live where you live are doing this. And we could draft first responders who have retired. Some who are active, so the police would say, hey, that's one of our buddies in there. We don't want to mess with them. And some of these veterans who've come back, and anybody else who can shoot well enough and has enough knowledge of the law and will attend the monthly training sessions.
Okay, hold on. Let me say something to you because I got a breaking story that just came across the phone. A New York judge ruled that Donald Trump is no longer in contempt for failing over a document.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's been out there for 2 days.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. What do you think?
Yeah. In other words, what happened is his staff furnished and requested documents.
Okay. So let's talk about that for a minute because I wanted to bring that up because another thing they've been showing in the news a lot, and you know about it, this so-called January 6th hearing. This so-called...
It looks like a circus act because what the hell can they do about it? They can't prosecute anybody. So what are they going to do? They're just trying to stave off the inevitable disaster. I saw Biden's approval ratings had dropped down to 28%, which is twice as low as anybody has had them in the last half century or so. And Kamala Harris's are even worse than hers. And to show you how bad it is, Kamala Harris's ratings are lower than Spiro Agnew's, who was vice president to Tricky Dick Nixon after Agnew got indicted and wound up serving time on the state level and the federal level. His approval ratings were still higher than Kamala Harris.
Judge, I mean, look, that bull crap the other day. You got a woman talking about he threw ketchup on the wall and the day he tried to grab the story don't even add up, man. She said, I heard this. What you heard?
You're talking about that young idiot. Oh, sure. And then the sources are immediately refuting it. No, that didn't happen. And that agent wasn't even in the big van. So what the hell are you talking about? You're just talking crap. And as long as it's hearsay. And she's not even accurately quoting the hearsay, so that would be thrown out of court. That wouldn't even be admissible.
But I'm saying,
you want to sit there and put that garbage out like it's supposed to be something we need to know? Oh, hell, fool. What you need to do is read this thing called the U.S. Constitution. I've got one around here. Read it.
We don't know it because, look, that's what I'm trying to say. Every time they say something, we don't know it. I mean,
well, I tell you what, you want to hear what's really embarrassing? For the last 20-some years, surveys by the American and National Bar Associations, Americans white, nationals black, have shown that less than 25% of American lawyers who graduated from law school in the last 25 years, and about the same percentage of judges have actually read the Constitution. Just a quarter.
That might be true.
No, that is true. Because I questioned some lawyers. What is it? Well, I said, you haven't read it, have you? And see, it's only 12 pages. It's 12 pages. Man, the average high school graduate can read it if he reads slow in 10 or 12 minutes. And most of it doesn't even apply because it's administrative stuff that it says after 1807 or 1809, this will no longer apply.
Now, let me say something about this because I wanted to bring up another case too. So the black woman, Ketanji Brown Jackson, was sworn in today because Breyer returned. Well, he might have been. Well, she's going to be sworn in if she hadn't already. But Breyer,
they swore in. But the problem is her party that she's supposed to replace has already said he has 2 or 3 more decisions to participate in. Now, if she got sworn in, he can't do that. So what happens?
Yeah, because I'm saying, in just a day, 2 more cases came for the Supreme Court. One of them was an Environmental Protection Act where they struck that when they told Biden.
Yeah, that was interesting. What they said is a Secretary of Energy cannot delegate to himself this authority, nor can the president. It has to be specifically granted by Congress. And because of the sweeping and extensive influences, what has to happen is it needs to be made an act of Congress.
Yeah. Well, but we should already know that, though. I mean, that's not something that people...
They don't remember. They don't read the Constitution that they supposedly swore to uphold.
Now,
they don't know what it is. So how in the hell are you going to do what you're supposed to do if you don't know what your damn job description is?
Now, the other decision was the one with the Remain in Mexico policy. That's it. The Remain in Mexico policy. Now, they did, that might have been a big win for the Biden administration there. So they did kind of like throw some wrinkle in there. That's the Remain in Mexico. But that's the only thing they won. Like the guy praying on the field, they lost that. They about the coach not being able to pray on the field.
Well, they let him do it. They said it was private.
Yeah.
Though I know what the problem is with that. There's a big problem. 25 years ago, I was speaking at 4 local high school graduations. 2 of them, they had to call the police because somebody insisted on giving a Christian prayer, and some Muslims some black Muslims, some traditional from the Mediterranean area, and some Hindus got very upset about it. And some words were said, so fist fights broke out in the audience at both places. Chairs were thrown. Some people got injured. The police had to go there, and these were parents. These weren't the children. I remember I told one girl I used to date that this has been 40 plus years ago. And she was a devout Catholic, and she kept on trying to proselytize her elementary school children. Well, I drove up because I was going to drop something off she asked me to pick up. So when I got to her school, she was dashing as fast as she could down the street. And there was a Hindu woman with a large butcher knife getting ready to slice her up. So I intervened, stopped the woman with the knife, said, "What the devil is going on here?" And the Hindu woman was cussing and spitting and said, "This fool is trying to convert my children to her heathen religion." I said, "I told you not to do this. It would cause public disruption, and somebody's not going to like it because somebody thinks as much about their religion as you do about yours. That being the case, don't you think you need to back off so somebody doesn't successfully get to you with this butcher knife? And since I looked at the two of you, she was gaining on you." See, that was back, I'd say that was something like, well, hell, more than 42 years ago. That's like 1980.
Now, you know what? I got to ask you, because people been asking me a lot of questions about this. Gab said you skipped over. Oh yeah, he did say you skipped over the illegals don't have to hold up Mexico important. Well, I was just trying to say about the remain in Mexico policy. That means Biden may not have grant them asylum or something.
Oh, yeah, that was a thing, that asylum seekers don't have to remain in Mexico. That was one federal judge, but that was not the U.S. Supreme Court where it'll ultimately wind up. So, you grant somebody the ability just upon application for asylum to come into the country, supposing they're Al-Qaeda or ISIS, and they are hell-bent on bringing in some Stinger missiles, about 2,500 of which is still unaccounted for, that the Reagan administration traded to the freedom fighters in Afghanistan so that they could get money to illegally fund the Contras down in Central America. Well, there are a couple of thousand of them unaccounted for. They're heat-seeking missiles. They weigh 25 pounds, and you just put one over a shoulder and look through a simple sighting device, and when it makes noise, it's locked onto the target, and you press the trigger, and boom, it goes, and it will take down a jumbo jet, or at least cause it to crash if it's on takeoff or landing. So what are you going to do about those when these guys smuggle themselves in? What about the fentanyl that's coming across the border?
Yeah.
Speaking of gun stuff,
bills. Yeah, that fentanyl.
wait a minute. I have still some fentanyl in the refrigerator. I had cancer last year. And you know what it cost me as a copay to get the 30-day supply of fentanyl?
Well, it's cheap.
No, you know what it cost me? $1.63.
Oh, dang. That's about like the order some Vicodin.
I know.
48 one time.
And then, see, George Floyd passed a counterfeit $20 bill at the place that was run by the Palestinian mob that was putting the counterfeit bills out, that he didn't expect anything to happen. And a young black man said, "Look, mister, you got to give me the money back because they're going to take this out of my check. I can't afford that." But he needed the $20 to get his fix. And I'll say this, any fool that wants to get high off of fentanyl has got problems. That's some dangerous shit, and I had to take it. It works for pain, but it ain't a good high. You got to close everything up, including your knife drawers and utensils, because you don't want to stick yourself with being stuck on stupid behind doing it. So guess what they're doing? I call it AKDs, improvised killing devices, like IEDs, improvised explosive devices. The vets know about IEDs. A lot of them were killed or badly mutilated because of them. In other words, you can't get the traditional military explosives, you improvise them. Well, you can't get traditional killing devices, you improvise them. So guess what they're doing in Tennessee, where there have been multiple instances of this occurring? They're taking $1 bills, $5 bills, 10s, 20s, and even 50s, folding them up and putting a whole bunch of fentanyl in there, mixed with some other stuff. And see, fentanyl will absorb through your skin.
Yeah, we had it when I used to work in corrections. I know about it.
Yeah, so man, wow, a $20 bill. Somebody had some coke up in here. Let me empty that out. So he empties it out, puts it in his pocket. He's already killed himself. It'll just take an hour. He doesn't know it. So an improvised killing device using fentanyl and some other things mixed in there with them.
Speaking of that, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't know what happened, but
Biden, of course, doesn't give a goddamn about the American public, because all that stuff's coming across the border.
Well, you had 46 immigrants in a trailer get killed in San Antonio area the other day. If you heard about that in the truck.
Yeah, I did.
So that's a human smuggling. But let me bring up something very interesting, because people have been talking about this and you know about it. So everybody's been getting on. I tell you, Maxwell the other day, and now you have R. Kelly. Maxwell got 20 years, R. Kelly got 30, even though that could be on appeal. But what do you think about this R. Kelly thing? And we've been talking about it. You know, they got.
He should have gotten 40 years.
Okay.
I'd have given him 40 if I could under the sentencing guidelines, over and over and over again. He just keeps screwing children. He's illiterate. He can't read or write, so I guess he couldn't deal with a grown woman. He had to deal with children. And he can't explain away Aaliyah. She wasn't but 14. So what's a grown man supposed to be doing marrying a 14-year-old? This is not on any damn frontier where your life expectancy is 19 or 21 years of life. This is the 21st century. What the hell's wrong with you? And he does it over and over again. I admit he's a pervert. He's got problems. His sister brags that she was his first sex partner. Think about that. Incest. Your first piece of booty is your sister? That's some sick shit. So, I mean, it's time that he got to stop preying on children. And it's time that they made an example of all these pedophiles. They need to kick their ass, and particularly since there is a bad problem in the black community. I know I was on the bench as a judge. I was a defense lawyer for years, and I know all of the sick, perverted shit that everybody did. White, black, brown, red, yellow. So ain't nobody picking on anybody. I just say, you know, this guy's in the public light. He needs to be punished for doing what he did. Granted, all these parents that went along with it needed to be punished. Those parents that wanted Michael Jackson to molest their little boys, they need to be punished. A whole bunch of them. Yeah, I know they couldn't prove the case. That's American law, beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's appropriate. But then again, they never convicted Al Capone of homicide, and Al Capone killed some people. He had a bunch of eyewitnesses where he baseball batted somebody into eternity. Had a formal dinner, whacked him upside the head, kept beating him until there was red mush all over that end of the table.
But let me ask you a question. Because they try. My thing more so with the R. Kelly thing was not was what he did. What did he call it? The RICO Act. They were trying to get on?
That's organized crime.
Okay, but then I know you were talking about this Mann Act thing too, right?
Yeah, Mann Act was before
the RICO Act. You didn't want a Mann Act.
The FBI was set up. The FBI was created to get something on Jack Johnson and to stop black men from taking white women across state lines. Now, what happened was Jack Johnson was legally married to a white woman, but that marriage was not recognized in Georgia. So they were going to a seaport on their way to France. They crossed over a corner of Georgia. It took about 15 minutes, and as soon as the train made its next stop outside Georgia, federal agents vamped on the train and arrested him. And out of that, they set up the Mann Act. Now, he got convicted, and his dingbat mama just kept begging him, oh, baby, I want to see you one more time. She should have had enough gumption to have left her child where he was, but he listened to mama, came back, got caught, had to do his time, got out, and got killed in a car wreck in 1946. And he was everybody's black hero because he was the first world heavyweight champion that was black, and he beat everybody's ass.
Now come back to Rico, because I think was it 2007?
Yeah, Rico. That's for the mob.
In 2007. When I know that it was Obama and I forgot this Arab guy name, but it was in Chicago. They had like a Rico thing too going on. Kind of like
Obama's client was RICO indicted, and although they always go after all of the property as a product of criminal activity, they didn't go after the mansion that the crook deeded over to his wife, who deeded it over to the Obamas 2 days later, and they filed their quitclaim. Well, she filed her quitclaim deed from her husband, who had surrendered himself on Monday. She did that on Tuesday. On Wednesday, she sold the property for $1 to the Obamas, and they filed their deed on Thursday. So unusually, the feds did not go after him, which I've always seen them do when there's a RICO situation. And I've represented folk charged with RICO offenses and RICO counts. So I've never seen it happen. So why didn't they go after Barack Obama? Oh, he's inside. He's a plant. Fast track. We gonna get us a nigger in the White House, but he ain't gonna really be a nigger. He gonna be one of us.
Well,
yeah, free Bush money.
Well, you know what? And it's kind of funny you mentioned him, because I was just looking at stuff today, things that he talked about he wanted to do abolish the filibuster. Now Biden said, because of what happened with the Supreme Court, we need to abolish the filibuster, blah, blah, blah. Come on.
Oh, hell no. They need to have it. The reason they had unlimited debate is because, as Jefferson was advised by Madison when he said, what do we need a Senate for? Why do we need that? He said, why do you pour your tea into the saucer? He said, to cool it off. He said, exactly. So we want people in there for 6 years who are appointed, not elected. So they will take the wild ideas that come out of the masses with passion and tamper them down so that no extreme crap gets passed. So what do we have? Unlimited debate.
Okay.
And we need to continue to have that, because the filibuster can be a very good thing. Some very bad laws have been prevented from passing because of the filibuster. And otherwise, some good ones have been blocked. So it works both ways. When you have a law, it's a two-edged sword. It swings this way and that way.
Well, obviously Biden doesn't want it.
Oh, Biden's
they're saying he doesn't want it, but then again, he probably wants it for his own act.
Biden doesn't know what the hell he works. Mr. President, what's the matter? You forgot to wipe your ass. You know that, don't you? Oh, I did. Oh, my. Well, if you aren't for me, you're not black. What's that got to do, Mr. President? You talking about called shit is brown? That's supposed to make me black. Because I'm saying you got shit all over your backside that you didn't wipe off. What's your problem?
Now, my thing is, and let me tell you something about this thing. And I'm going to tell you, we had a case down here in Richmond. Guy, I go to his coffee shop all the time. He made a statement saying he supports, the Supreme Court, what they did. And women were saying, oh, you need to be aborted. Fuck you. Talking about protests outside your business. We're going back to Starbucks, blah, blah, blah. But then, and I look at this thing, but I always look at something with the Democrats. This has been going on lately. they talk about the word insurrection, right? But then when you see people busting up windows of the Arizona State House, or you see people busting courthouse building down in protest, or you're seeing somebody said that, you know, you really need to be out in the streets, and then you got Maxine Waters saying this, and you got somebody saying this. You can't yell insurrection on one end and you don't use it on the other.
Oh, you can, but you're just a damn hypocrite and an idiot. But that doesn't seem to matter. Our cause is right. We're at the right, man. It's all right for us to do what we do. It's right on happening, man. You know, like we need to be able to do what we have to do, man, by any means necessary, man. Like, what the hell? These fools were calling for insurrections in the parks and for the 4th of July. Now, that's advocacy of civil disobedience, and that's just as bad as January 6th. So what Trump did, to me, just looked like First Amendment stuff. What is it? A right to assemble and petition for the redress of grievance. And the other thing is telling Pence not to sign off on it is for this. Waiting in the wings was a vote on the 1877 Confidence in Elections Act. It's still in effect. They passed it in 1877. It's still on the books. And what it says is when there is a national lack of confidence in the validity of an election for president and vice president, then Congress shall assemble a 15-man committee, 5 from the House, 5 from the Senate, and 5 from the Supreme Court, one of whom has to be the Chief Justice. So what the deal is if the House has more members in one party, they get 3. Then the other, who gets 2, and the same thing with the Senate. And with the Supreme Court, you get it down by seniority or as the Supreme Court chooses to impose. So their mandate is to conduct an independent audit of the election process that shall take at least 10 days. And as to the violence, remember Trump wanted to call in Maryland and Virginia National Guard and reserve units, but they said, no, oh my God, he's planning to overthrow the government. Now, see, that's like a woman who's always accusing you of screwing around on her. 9 times out of 10, when they're making that accusation, they're screwing around on you. He who is complaining the most is the one that's fucking the most, somewhere other than at home. So that's the same thing. They get talking about he wants to overthrow the government. Now, these pink panty wearing, switching and twitching fascisti, they'd love to impose their way on you. And by the way, what is this? National Socialist Workers Party. What is that? What is
Nazi. You got a lot of them in Ukraine.
There you go.
You got a lot of them in Ukraine.
Socialist Workers Party.
You got them in Ukraine.
And by the way, they had a bad problem with homosexuality with the SA, the stormtroopers. Rahm got executed because he wouldn't stop. They were making it open and blatant. So, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. I'm not saying all gays would do that, but this LGBTQ cult would and will and does and has been. And by the way, a little observation on that. If these trannies actually meant well about reading to children, they wouldn't dress in drag when they read to the children.
Well, they actually talking about now, Judge, these trannies. I think one of them actually got busted on a child pornography case, and I think they were using some of these trannies to read in the library to children. Like, who want you to read in the library?
Yeah, perverts. See, they aren't even honest about it. You see that one where this supposedly straight, cisgender, which means normal, heterosexual male, marries this transsexual female who hadn't had an operation, so she got a dick too. So who's pitching and who's catching, you know? Why don't they just call it gay marriage instead of, oh, it was a traditional marriage? It was a man and a woman. No, it's not, because the woman got a dick and doesn't have a twat. So both of them got dick and ass. So who's pitching and who's catching? Just call it what it is, homosexual relationship. That's what I got on Malik Yogurt. Malik Yogurt,
I
when
need
he was
to
on my show. He got to talking, and I'm straight. Well, I thought you like chicks with dicks and tits. I do, but they're still women. I said, oh, they got a dick. So what are you supposed to be fucking when you fucking? Ass? And he got a dick? That means you gay, man. Why don't you just come on out the closet? 21st century, dude.
Well, now they talking about they want a transgender bill of rights, and they are
I
being
know, ain't that
oppressed.
pathetic? What the hell they need a bill of rights for trannies for when everybody's got a universal bill of rights? You know what that's like? It's the pig pen. Orwell wrote this book called Animal Farm. And if you don't feel like reading the book, if you Google it, there is an Animal Farm animation that the CIA put out in 1952, I think. That animation is interesting because it pretty much follows the book. What happens is some animals stage a revolution and they take over this farm. Everybody's supposed to be equal, and on the side of the barn, the animals have written, all animals are equal. Well, the pigs come in and bring in the dogs for muscle, and they change things around. And then the Constitution says all animals are equal, but pigs are more equal than others. So these fools are trying to set up an animal farm pig pen where the pigs are more equal than others.
Okay.
And it doesn't make logical sense. It's inconsistent. It's hypocritical, and it's wrong. But that at base is what's going on right now. You have the Democratic Party has become the party of perversion, degeneracy, and corruption, and stupid, silly inconsistencies, and has become the party of emasculation.
Well, when they showed it at the BET Awards,
you can be lesbian. What's that?
Look at Billy Porter at the BET Awards. He talking about we black.
Oh yeah, Billy Porter's a sick freak. He's a sick freak. He's a sick freak. He's a sick freak. He needs therapy.
Well, let me ask you
and pronouns. The only pronoun that accommodates him is it. You ain't a he, you ain't a she. That means your ass isn't it.
Oh, okay.
And you got a dick, you damn sure ain't a she, because you can't get prego.
Judge,
and even if you couldn't get prego, you don't go through monthly cycles, and you don't go through these hormonal imbalances, and you don't go through menopause, and you don't have the natural inclination or the things that women have that make them something that men can put on a pedestal.
So I don't, but Judge, this is my thing. You're telling me I see a man that looks like me, but because he says he's a she, that you want me to call him that. Don't you see something?
I just say, oh, the hell with you. Make me.
Exactly. I like that.
And you find a karate trained old man kicking your ass unmercifully.
Yeah,
I know those grandmasters you see in the kung fu movies with the long white beards and the white hair. Yeah. No, okay. I'll put it on your ass. So
a guy got a question for you. A guy got a question for you. He said, "Do you, in your opinion, you think a gay couple can raise a child just to have sex?"
No, they don't.
Okay.
I've seen it. See, one of the problems with this whole social experiment is that it hasn't gone on long enough, and you don't see a very large portion of 70-year-olds, 60-year-olds who've been raised that way to assess them. The few that you do, there are some severe problems. I know some retired and active principals here in this school system, and they bitch to me about the problems they have with, Joe, I was sitting in for one principal, she's a big old heavy sister, and she keeps getting sick. So they had me there for 3 weeks. And we're over located in so-and-so. I said, yeah, I know the area. And every time I get one of these teacher requests for a parent-teacher conference, and I keep getting the description of what's going wrong, and then what shows up, child's got two daddies or two mamas. And then I said, this has been going over and over and over, and it's not healthy. And
Hold on, got a couple of
look, I
questions
don't
here.
need to see a documentary, What is a Woman? I know what a woman is. She got a pussy. She's got a female attitude. She's got a hormonal thing that causes her to be softer or strident. You know, when they give you guidance, they have a license, well, advisement. They have a license to do that, but our job is to give guidance. And let's see, what do I think of Clarence Thomas's wife being involved in the January 6th insurrection? Let's be candid. It was no damn insurrection. It was
That's the thing you can say. It's not insurrection.
And then there were 45,000 peaceful demonstrators within 2 to 3 miles of the Capitol building. And you got 180 people, which is about the number, that gathered all over the country in various cities, Chicago, Seattle, you name it, to go burn stuff down, mostly in black neighborhoods, and ruin billions of dollars worth of black business property under the guise of BLM, Black Lesbian Mania. And
what BLM now?
Black Lesbian Mania.
I mean,
and
they're not out there
came up with.
They're not doing anything. They're not making a lot of noise.
No, it was a pimp hustle game. So the gals who are the 3 or 4 of them, if you count the African, they're lesbians, and they have this thing where they just
money.
Everybody. They pimped everybody. And if you went on the site, you and I know we helped get that damn thing down because they had that mantra, what we believe. And after you went through the frou-frou bullshit, you got to their first thing. We believe in the destruction of the traditional nuclear family. Damn. And then number 3 was, we are for the elimination of cisgender privilege in the family. 3rd from the bottom. We are a queer affirming organization.
They got a new name now.
When you looked at their disclosure, 1/3 of all the money they bring in goes to BLM, Black Lesbian Money Making, and 1/3 goes to Act Blue, which is the Democratic Party fundraising entity that is associated with them, and 1/3 goes to LGBTQIA plus, they put it, that they claim to be an affiliate of. And then see a lot of what was going on that the Justice Department should have been investigation was this. Remember when me and you looked at that? We provide organization, communication, and transportation for rallies, demonstrations, and protests. See, in other words, they were part of a conspiracy to break the public peace, dignity, and order, and they should have been prosecuted, not January 6th, when a few people got out of whack, out of line, and what did they do? They committed misdemeanor trespass and misdemeanor vandalism.
Well, that is their new website right there. When I said, I asked you where are they? They got a new website called the Black Futures Lab. And they tell you can donate and all that, but this is their new website, Black Futures Lab. So they done
and they're trying to get us to go along with this, make your voice heard, take the black census and be part of the largest survey of black people since Reconstruction. Oh, the hell, I'm not letting these goddamn neo-fascists get a damn bit of information on me if I can help it.
Well, yeah, so they done came back around. They reinventing themselves.
Well, I know, they're pimps.
So,
they're hustlers.
Yeah,
they're con artists.
New website. That's how they
con artists.
Yeah. So that's their new website. I'm just pointing that out. But let me ask you a couple more questions, because I knew you got to do another show, and I got to run off, and I got to go to a guy's thing myself. So I want to bring this to you. I know you've been running for mayor, and I know 2023. So what is the biggest issue in Memphis that you're trying to tackle right now?
Police, community relations, economy, bringing in international trade, sinking some hydroelectric turbines down here in the Mississippi River to generate free electric power that would be used to charge up city buses, electric cars, and power a heavy industry in the area. To get this trade coming in from Ford Motor Company's compact electric cars and Cadillac's luxury electric cars, get them put on barges going down the Mississippi to New Orleans and then over to Europe through the Mediterranean and then through the Suez Canal on the eastern end of the Mediterranean on into Asia. All right. We need to deal with a lot of people going to jail. We need to have another sting operation. Tennessee hip hop Memphis hip hop instead of Tennessee waltz, which was the last one where a lot of folk got caught up in it and went to jail like they should have. And we need to do a lot of things that any decent, honest person could come up with, and some things that a person that's intelligent enough and wise enough and well read, well trained, and well educated enough to come up with when it comes to innovative ideas of how to get things going. Memphis used to be the cotton capital of the South when cotton was the main product of the South. They said the South started with the Peabody Hotel in Memphis and went to New Orleans. Well, we need to have that again, where the power generated in Memphis is sold everywhere from New Orleans to Louisville to Kansas City to St. Louis to Chicago and all points in that area, to Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, all sorts of places. And South Carolina, and we need that kind of thing. Louisiana, Florida, and you see, we need this kind of development, and it could be ours here. And I want to do something about setting up city-sanctioned community militias under that Second Amendment so we can take control of the communities back from the thugs. I want to model the police department on the Defense Department, where you've got a civilian head, you've got the Secretary of the Army, Secretary of the Navy, Air Force, they're civilians, and then we have a civilian director of police. We have a civilian director of homicide, uniform patrol, sex crimes, theft, whatever it may be. And we set up agreements wherein the police and affected juveniles sign agreements with the parent or parents such that prosecution is not to be commenced if the child goes through various programs, so he gets the right thing in his head and becomes a man rather than becoming a little sissy with no community values, no understanding of his job to make a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, morality, ethics, and a sense of purpose, where he is a man of public peace, dignity, and order who can be brave and courageous when necessary. So let's put the citizens to work patrolling their areas as a militia organized under the city, with regular training sessions once a month and ordinary patrol. Somebody said Tunica across the state line. Well, Memphis, almost 40 years ago, passed a referendum authorizing parimutuel betting, etc. here. On the state level, the group up in Nashville, not wanting there to be a black area, which is Memphis, having all that money, has been blocking it, but there's some ways around it. So we need to do something about that, and I intend to have the right kind of city attorney, and I'm going to sick he or she on these people that need to be jacked around. Beale Street needs to be revamped. that, okay, somebody asked this question, isn't the
That's
Democratic elected congresspersons publicly decrying and even subtly threatening members of the Supreme Court more of a threat to democracy than what happened on January 6th? Yes, they're openly advocating this, and they're calling for people to break the law. No, it's maybe, but this really started off in World War II with Rosie the Riveter, when the United States had 18 million males and a few females under arms and in uniform or on board a warship. And interestingly enough, there's some mythology that needs to be corrected. Lately, the EEOC recoveries are not women who are getting recoveries because they are getting paid less for doing the same jobs as men. We're finding that in stuff like Silicon Valley and technological industries, we're finding women get more for the same job than the men do. And here's some statistics we all ought to think about. And after this, I'm going to have to go. It's on average for the last 20 years, only 28% of all high school graduates in America are male. Only 32% of the undergraduates in the United States are male. Only 36% of the graduate students in the United States are male. And only 44% of the workforce is male. What the hell is happening? And then, of course, we can always look at this to explain it. For 50 some years, they've had an official take your daughter to work week. Have they ever had one take your son to work week? No, they haven't.
Well, let me say one more thing before you go, because I know you got to bring it up, but I want to bring this up to you. I've heard a lot of positive reviews on the sauce, so I know you got a sauce out there too.
Okay, here's what I do. I'm delivering service, and you can get JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown. And meanwhile, I've got one hell of a barbecue sauce. JJBBBQ.com. That's Judge Joe Brown. Barbecue. JJBBBQ.com. And it's the best you have ever bought. Frankly, I like to split it 50-50 with beer or malt vinegar. But you can also take it and put ice cubes and vodka in it and a stick of celery, and you'll have a damn fine substitute for a Bloody Mary. I call it a hot Mary. So, yeah.
Well, look, go ahead.
I'm telling you it's good. You be the judge, and you see how good it is. Order you some while the summer's still here. It'll be on the shelves in a little while, but it won't hurt to order it right now.
Well, you take your time. I know you're turning new age in a couple of days, so take your time.
Oh yeah, I know.
We'll have a long show next time. I know you got other stuff to do, but we'll have a long show next time. We'll talk about all that.
All right, now.
Yes, sir.
I'm still breathing. I can go out there and jog a mile, so I ain't dead. Might not be very fast, but I can jog it. But anyway.
Take your time.
Now, yeah. I'm out of here. Highbind got to go. This has been Joe. Catch me when you can. I'm the one that ran JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown. And while you talk about something to come back around, JJBBBQ. Between me and you, it's the best you're going to do when it comes to the sauce, spice, or other things for the Q that's going to be for me and you this summer. Enjoy yourself, too. I'm out of here.
Hi, sir.